The communications room was filled with smoke and the smell of burning metal. Hana pressed her hands against the console, trying to stop them from shaking. Outside she could hear the sounds of explosions getting closer. The Krathos were coming, and there was nothing left to stop them. How long do we have? She asked without looking up. Her brother Tammin checked his data pad. His face was pale, and there was dried blood on his forehead from earlier when part of the ceiling had collapsed. Maybe 3 days, 4 if we're lucky, but Hana, luck ran out 2 weeks ago. Hana wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. The Krathos swarm had appeared in their system 5 months ago. At first the Galactic Council promised help. They said warships were coming. They said the Velzian people would be protected, but the help never came. One by one the council members stopped responding to their messages. The last transmission they received was 3 days ago. It was just 2 words: good luck. The Velisians were not warriors. They were teachers, scientists, artists. Their bodies were thin and fragile. They built machines to do heavy work because lifting anything more than a few pounds was difficult for them. Their world was peaceful, filled with libraries and laboratories and gardens. They had no weapons, no soldiers, no way to fight back against something like the Krathos. The Krathos did not talk. They did not negotiate. They just consumed everything in their path: world stations, ships, people. Nothing was left behind except empty husks of planets stripped of all life. The swarm moved like a disease through space, and now it had come to Velris Prime. Send another message, Tammin said quietly. Send it to everyone. Maybe someone will answer. Hana looked at him. His eyes were red from crying, though he was trying to hide it. She knew he was thinking about their parents who had died when the northern continent fell. She was thinking about them too. She was thinking about all the children hiding in the bunkers below. She was thinking about how unfair it was that their entire civilization would end because they were too weak to matter to anyone. She typed the message with steady hands, even though her heart felt like it was breaking. The message was simple. It contained their location, the size of the attacking force, and a plea for help. Any help from anyone. She said it to broadcast on every frequency they had, in every language they knew. Then she pressed send. The message went out into the darkness of space. Hana sat back and closed her eyes. She did not expect an answer. No one was coming. Galaxy had made that clear. We should go to the bunker, Tammin said. There's nothing more we can do here. Hana was about to agree when the console beeped. Her eyes snapped open. An incoming message. Her hands flew across the controls. The translation software struggled for a moment with the language. It was not one she recognized. But then words appeared on her screen. Earth Defense Force en route. Hold position. We are coming. Hana stared at the words Earth she had heard of. Earth everyone had. It was the quarantined world on the far edge of the galaxy, the death world. The planet was classified as extreme hazard because of its gravity, its weather, its predators. The creatures that lived there were considered too dangerous for normal galactic contact. The few reports that existed about humans described them as violent, unpredictable, and obsessed with something they called survival of the fittest. Did you see this? Hana called out to Tammin. He rushed over and read the message. His expression went from hope to confusion to fear. Earth But they are not part of the council. They are not part of any alliance, Hana. What if they are worse than the Cathos? It was a fair question, but Hana looked at the message again. 2 words stood out to her: we are coming, not we might. Come or we will consider it. After weeks of being abandoned, someone had said, yes, we have to tell the others. Hana said. They ran through the damaged corridors to the command center. The few remaining leaders of Prime were gathered there looking at maps and casualty reports. When Hana showed them the message, the room went silent. Humans, one of the elders said, but they are primitives. They still use kinetic weapons. They still fight with chemicals and explosives. They are coming, Hana said firmly. That is more than anyone else has done. The elder looked like he wanted to argue, but he could not. Outside, another explosion shook the building. The Cathos were less than 20 mi from the city now. In 2 days, maybe 3, they would breach the last walls. After that, it would be over. How long until they arrive? Another leader asked. Hana checked the message details. Their estimated arrival is 68 hours, 4 hours before we fall. Tammin said quietly. The room fell silent again. It was such a small window. So many things could go wrong. The humans might not make it in time. They might not be strong enough to fight. The Krathos, they might take one look at the situation and decide it was hopeless, but they were coming. That had to mean something. Prepare the people, the eldest leader finally said. Tell them help is on the way. Tell them to hold on just a little longer. Hana send out the message to all the bunkers, all the shelters, all the desperate people hiding in the ruins of their beautiful world. Help was coming from Earth. Hold on, stay alive just a few more days. She did not know if anyone believed it. She was not sure she believed it herself, but it was hope. And hope was all they had left. That night, Hana stood on the roof of the command center and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, humans were traveling through space to reach them. She wondered what they looked like. She wondered if they would be kind or cruel. She wondered if they would arrive in time. The sky above the city glowed orange from the fires burning in the distance. The Cathos were getting closer. But for the first time in weeks, Hana allowed herself to believe they might survive. Someone was coming. Earth's warriors were coming, and the galaxy was about to learn what that meant. The 68th hour arrived with the sound of dying machines. The last automated defense tower on the western wall had just fallen silent. Hana watched from the bunker entrance as black shapes moved through the smoke in the distance. The Cathos were here. Get inside. Tammin grabbed her arm. There's nothing you can do out here. But Hana could not move. She kept looking at the sky. The humans had said they were coming. She wanted to believe. She needed to believe, but the sky was empty. Except for smoke and ash, the Krathos moved like a wave of insects, thousands of them, their chitinous bodies reflecting the light of burning buildings. They made a clicking sound as they advanced, a horrible noise that had haunted Hana's nightmares for months. Each creature was the size of a Velzian adult, with razor-sharp claws and mandibles that could cut through metal. Behind them, larger shapes moved, the warrior forms, the ones that had torn through their strongest barriers like paper. Hana, please, Tammin was crying. Now we have to go. Suddenly the sky changed. Hana saw at first a streak of fire cutting through the clouds, then another, then 10 more, than a H100 red. The entire Western sky lit up with orange and white. Trails like a meteor shower, except these meteors were moving with purpose. And precision, what is that, Timon? Whispered. The answer came seconds. Later, the first object hit the ground. In the middle of the Krathos formation. With such force that Hana felt the impact through her feet, a massive explosion of dirt and debris rose into the air before it settled. More impacts followed. Boom, 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 the sound was deafening. They were pods, metal pods, each the size of a small vehicle, slamming into the ground at incredible speed. The crowds closest to the impacts were simply destroyed, crushed by the force, but that was not the terrifying part. The pods opened. From each one, figures emerged through the smoke. They were tall, much taller than any. They wore dark armor that looked heavy and brutal, covered in plates and straps. They carried weapons that seemed too large for any reasonable creature to lift. And they moved fast, faster than Hana thought possible for something so big. Earth Defense Force, boots on ground, a voice said over the emergency channel. It was deep and calm, speaking accented galactic standard, Velrizian. Command, this is Squad Leader Doyan. We are here to help. Hana grabbed the communicator with shaking hands. This is Communications Officer Hana. We see you. We see you. Thank you for coming. Savior, thanks, the voice replied. Just stay out of our way and let us work. The humans moved into formation with frightening speed. Hana could see them now on the view screen. Someone had set up. They were nothing like she expected. Their faces were visible through clear face shields, and they looked so different from any species she had ever seen. Flat faces, forward-facing eyes like predators, and skin in various shades of brown and tan. They moved like they owned the battlefield. The Krathos charged them. It was how the swarm always fought. Overwhelming enemies with numbers and ferocity. Hundreds of Krathos warriors rushed toward the humans. The humans did not run. They did not even seem worried. Contact front, one of them said calmly. Weapons free. The noise that followed was unlike anything Hana had ever heard. The human weapons made a rapid barking sound, loud and violent. Fire and smoke erupted from the barrels. The Krathos at the front of the charge simply fell apart. The kinetic rounds tore through their armor like it was nothing. The humans fired in controlled bursts, each shot placed with precision. Grenade out. Another voice called. A human threw something small into the Krathos formation. 3 seconds later, an explosion ripped through the enemy lines. Body parts flew in every direction. The Krathos that survived the blast stumbled. Disoriented, push forward. Down ordered. Give them no ground, and the humans advanced. They did not wait for the Krathos to regroup. They moved forward into the enemy, firing as they walked. Some of them drew large knives when Krathos got too close, and Hana watched in shock as they fought hand to hand with creatures that had destroyed defenders. In seconds the humans won. One human, her armor marked with sergeant stripes, appeared on Hana's communication screen. She had dark eyes and short black hair. Under her helmet, Velician command, this is Sergeant Me. We are establishing a defensive perimeter around your position. Keep your people inside for the next 2 hours. 2 hours. Hana could barely speak. It took us 2 weeks to set up our last defense line. MJI smiled. It was not a cruel smile, but there was Something predatory about it. We are not. You, for the next hour, Hana and the other Velians watched in amazement as the humans did exactly what they promised. They moved through the Krathos positioned like a knife through water, cutting down everything in their path. They worked in small teams, covering each other, communicating constantly. When one human was injured, others would drag them to safety while still firing at the enemy. Hana saw one young human soldier, barely old enough to be an adult by Vrayan standards, pull Tammin away from a Krathos warrior that had somehow gotten past the lines. The human shot the creature 3 times in the head, then turned to Tammin with a huge grin on his face. "Don't worry, Doc," the soldier said in broken galactic standard, his name patch read, "Junho, we have handled worse than bugs." Tammin looked at the dead Kathos, then at Junho, then back at the creature. "You called it a bug. That thing has killed hundreds of my people." Junho's smile faded a bit. He put a hand on Tammin's shoulder. The human's hand was huge compared to a Velzian. "Not anymore, not while we are here." By the time the second hour ended, the Krathos attack had completely stopped. The swarm had pulled back, leaving behind thousands of dead. The humans had not lost a single soldier. Some were injured, but they were all still alive and still fighting. Hana walked out of the bunker on shaking legs. The battlefield was covered in Kathos bodies. Human soldiers were setting up barriers and fortifications, working with the efficiency of machines but the creativity of living beings. They were singing something while they worked, a rhythmic song in their own language that Hana did not understand, but found oddly comforting. Down approached her. Up close he was even more impressive. He stood almost twice her height, his armor scarred and dented from the battle. He removed his helmet, and Hana saw his face for the first time. Strong features, dark eyes that seemed to see everything, and a small scar on his chin. "Your people are safe for now," he said, "but the swarm will be back, probably with more numbers. We need to prepare." "How?" Hana asked. "How are you so strong, so fast? We never stood a chance against them, but you make it look easy." Do looked out at the battlefield, then back at her. "Our world made us this way. Earth is not a kind place. Everything there wants to kill you. The weather, the animals, the plants, sometimes even the air. We learned to be strong or we died. It is that simple. But why come here?" Hana had to know. "Why risk your lives for people you have never met?" For the first time, Daoyun smiled. It transformed his face, making him look younger and kinder. "Because you asked for help. That is all we needed to hear." Hana felt tears running down her face. She did not try to stop them. For the first time in months, she felt something other than fear. She felt hope, real hope. The humans had come. Earth's warriors had fallen from the skies, and they had no intention of leaving until the job was done. The human forward base looked nothing like a Velrizian military facility. It was rough, practical, and built with frightening speed. Hana watched as human soldiers assembled fortifications using materials they had brought and things they had scavenged from the ruins. They worked in shifts, and Hana noticed something strange. They barely seemed to need sleep. "How long have they been working?" she asked Tammin. He checked his timepiece. 19 hours. "But look that group over. They're just finished an 8-hour patrol. And now they are helping with construction." A human soldier passed by, carrying a piece of metal that must have weighed more than Hana's entire body. She was moving at a steady pace, not even breathing hard. She noticed them, staring and grinned, first time seeing humans work. The soldier asked her name. Patch read Sora. You do not get tired? Tammin asked. Sora laughed. Oh, we get tired, we just do not let it stop us. Coffee helps. She patted a container on her belt. We have been awake for about 30 hours now. We will sleep when the perimeter is secure. 30 hours? Hana could not imagine staying awake that long and still being able to function. Velisians needed at least 10 hours of rest each day. These humans were operating on a completely different level. Captain Hiron called a meeting with the Velisian leadership that evening. She was a woman with sharp features and calculating eyes. She spread a map across the table, marking it with quick, precise movements. The Cathos will attack again, she said, without preamble. Probably within 48 hours, they are regrouping and calling in reinforcements. Our current defensive position is good, but defense alone will not win this war. What do you suggest? One of the Velian elders asked. Nervously, Hiron looked at each of them. In turn, we go on the offensive. We hit their staging areas, destroy their supply lines, and take out their command nodes. We make them afraid to attack. The room went silent. The concept of attacking the Krathos seemed insane. Risians had been running and hiding for months. The idea of actively hunting the swarm was terrifying. Is that not suicide? Another elder asked. For you, maybe, Hiron said bluntly. For us, it is called Tuesday. She was not joking. Hana realized that humans fought wars differently than any species she knew. They did not just react to threats, they hunted them down and destroyed them completely. Over the next day, Hana spent time observing the humans. She noticed that while they were fierce warriors, they were also surprisingly kind to the Velisian civilians. A young soldier named Jiho had taken it upon himself to teach some of the Velrisian children basic defensive techniques. See, you hold it like this, he demonstrated with a piece of pipe, showing a small Velisian girl how to block. His movements were slow and gentle, nothing like the lethal efficiency he showed in battle. Good, you are doing great. The girl's mother watched nervously. Is it safe? She is so small. Jiho knelt down to her level. Everyone should know how to protect themselves, even if you never have to use it. Knowing you can is important. It helps you feel less afraid. Hana saw the mother's expression soften. These humans, these violent warriors from a death world, were taking time to help children feel safe. It did not match what she had been taught about them. In the science lab, Tammin was working with a group of human medics and scientists. They had captured a dead Krathos from the battlefield and were studying it intensely. Look at this venom sac, one of the humans said, pointing at a diagram. If we can isolate the proteins here, we might be able to create a toxin that disrupts their nervous system. You have been here one day, Tammin said in disbelief, and you already have a plan to poison them. The human, a woman named Unjai, shrugged. Back on Earth, we have creatures just as deadly. We have learned how to turn their own biology against them. The Krathos are just bigger bugs. That night, Dune led a raid into Cathos territory. Hana watched the mission through camera feeds attached to the soldiers' armor. The humans moved through the darkness like ghosts, barely making a sound despite their size and heavy equipment. They communicated using hand signals and whispered words that their radio systems picked up. Target in sight down, whispered one of their node creatures. Remember, we needed alive. The node creature was massive, easily 3 times the size of a regular Kathos warrior. It sat in the center of a nest connected to dozens of smaller creatures through biological cables. It was, according to Velrizian research, something like a living computer that coordinated the swarm's movements. The humans attacked with perfect coordination. Flashbang grenades exploded, disorienting the guards. Tranquilizer darts hit the node creature from multiple angles. In less than 3 minutes, the entire nest was neutralized and the humans were carrying the unconscious node creature back to base. How did you know the tranquilizer would work? Hana asked when they returned, down removed his helmet. He was smiling. We did not, but we knew the dosage would either knock it out or kill it. Either way worked for our mission. It was a gamble, a calculated risk. Humans seemed comfortable with that kind of uncertainty in a way that made Hana nervous. Later, Hana found Du Yun sitting alone looking at a small device. In his hand, it showed images of people. A woman, 2 children. Your family? Hana asked softly. Down nodded. My wife and daughters, they are back on Earth. Do you miss them? Every second, he said quietly, but this is my job. This is what I do. I protect people who cannot protect themselves, even people you do not know, on worlds you have never seen. Du Yun looked at her with those intense eyes. Especially them. That is what makes us human. We choose to care, even when it is hard, even when it costs us. Hana sat beside him. She was beginning to understand something fundamental about these warriors. They were not heroes because they were strong. They were heroes because they chose to be every single day, even when it hurt. A wounded soldier was brought in from the perimeter. Her name was Sara, the one Hana had met earlier. She had been hit by Kathos acid spray during a patrol. Half her face was burned and her arm was badly damaged. Get her to medical, one of the soldiers ordered, but Sara pushed herself to her feet. I can still fight. It is just a burn, just a burn. The medic looked horrified. You need treatment immediately. Sara loaded a fresh magazine into her weapon with her good hand. I will get treatment when my shift ends. Right now there is a perimeter to guard. She walked back to her post, barely limping. Hana followed her. Why do you do this? Hana asked. You are hurt. You should rest. Sara looked at her through her good eye. Because my squad is out there, my friends are out there, and you are in here counting on us. I do not quit when things get hard. That is not what humans do. In that moment, Hana realized something that both terrified and comforted her. These humans were more than just warriors. They were protectors who would burn themselves to ashes before they let harm come to those they chose to defend. The Velisians were weak and peaceful. They had no weapons, no warrior culture, no way to stand against something like the Krathos, but now they had allies. Now they had humans. And humans Hana was learning did not know how to give up. The Krathos had no idea what they were facing. The galaxy had dismissed Earth as primitive and violent, but violence Hana now understood was not the same as evil. Sometimes violence was exactly what was needed to protect the innocent. She looked out at the human base, at soldiers working through exhaustion, at Warriors who chose to fight for. Strangers at people who turned their deadly nature toward defending the helpless. The swarm was coming back, but this time Velis Prime would not stand alone. The alarm woke Hana from a restless sleep. She had only been asleep for 3 hours, but the klaxon sound meant one thing: the Krathos were back. She ran to the command center where human and officers were gathered around the main display. What she saw made her blood run cold. The screen showed a massive object entering orbit around Velis Prime. It was biological, a living ship, the size of a city, pulsing with bioluminescent lights. Smaller ships were detaching from it like insects from a hive. Bioship class. Commander Sok said grimly. He was the highest-ranking human officer on the planet, a man with gray in his hair and scars on his hands. We have encountered them before. They carry millions of Krathos warriors in suspended animation. Millions, an elder whispered, but you only have 2,000 soldiers. Sok looked at the Velian leader with calm eyes. Then we will need to be creative. For the first time in the conversation, Hana saw doubt on human faces. They had been confident, almost cocky about facing the Krathos on the ground, but this was different. Even these warriors from Earth understood they were looking at impossible odds. We should evacuate. Another elder suggested. The humans can leave. We can find another planet. Velis Prime is lost. No, Hana said firmly. All eyes turned to her. The humans came here to save us. They have fought and bled for us. We do not abandon them now. So nodded with approval. We did not come here to run. We came to finish this. He pulled up tactical displays and began explaining his plan. It was insane. A small team would infiltrate the bioship, using captured Krathos technology to mask their signatures. Once inside, they would plant explosives at the ship's neural core and destroy it from within. Without the bioship, the Krathos would lose their reinforcements and command structure. The team going in will not be coming back, Hyan said quietly. Explosives need someone to stay behind and make sure they detonate in the right sequence. Silence filled the room. This was not a military operation. It was a suicide mission. I will lead it, Du Yun said immediately. No, So shook his head. You are squad leader. Your team needs you for the ground defense. With respect, Commander. Down stood at attention. My team can handle the ground. This mission needs someone who will not hesitate when the moment comes. That is me. Siak studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Pick your team. Within an hour, volunteers had filled every spot. Down chose 12 soldiers, Mi Junho and 9 others. Each one knew they were signing their death warrant. Each one stepped forward anyway. I am coming too, Hana said. Absolutely not, Dune replied. Immediately, you need someone who understands Velishan and Krathos biotechnology, Hana insisted. The bio ship will have systems you cannot interface with. I can help navigate. Tamin grabbed her arm. Hana, no, I cannot lose you too. She hugged him tightly. If we do not stop that ship, everyone dies. You know that I have to do this. Down Yun looked at her for a long moment. If you come, you follow orders exactly. No hesitation, no freezing up. Can you do that? Hana met his gaze. Yes. The infiltration began at dawn. They used a captured Krathos transport modified with human technology. The ship smelled horrible, like rotting meat and chemicals. Hana tried not to Think about how many Cathos had been inside it before. The approach to the bioship was terrifying. They passed hundreds of Cathos vessels, any one of which could have detected them, but the disguise held. The massive bioship loomed before them like a mountain of flesh and bone. They docked at a maintenance port. The interior was worse than Hana imagined. The walls were made of organic matter, pulsing and warm to the touch. The corridors were narrow and dripping with fluids. The smell was overwhelming. "Stay tight, Dwan," whispered, weapons ready. They moved through the ship in formation. Every corner could hide Krathos warriors. Every sound could be a patrol. Hana's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. They encountered their first patrol 15 minutes in. 6 Cathos warriors walking directly toward them. There was no way to hide. "Contact," MJI said calmly and opened fire. The fight was brutal and quick. The humans killed all 6 Krathos, but the noise echoed through the corridors. They had minutes, maybe less, before more arrived. "Move faster," Diane ordered. "We need to reach the core." They ran through the nightmare corridors, fighting Cathos at every turn. Junho took a hit to the shoulder, the Krathos claw cutting through his armor. He kept fighting anyway, using his good arm to reload and fire. "How much further down?" asked Hana. Checked the bio readings on her scanner. 2 more levels down, but there is a problem. The core is behind a biological seal. It needs a living Cathos signature to open. "Then we take one alive," MJI said. They captured a Krathos warrior, subduing it with stun weapons. Hana felt sick, forcing the creature to open the seal, but she reminded herself what the Cathos had done to her world. They showed no mercy. She could not afford to either. The core chamber was massive, cathedral of flesh and neural tissue. In the center, a huge brain-like structure pulsed with light, connected to thousands of cables running throughout the ship. This was the mind of the bioship, the thing controlling millions of Cathos warriors. "Plant the charges." Down ordered. The team moved with practice efficiency, placing explosive devices at key points around the neural core. Each charge had to be positioned perfectly to ensure the destruction was complete. Alarms began to wail. Red lights flashed throughout the chamber. They had been discovered. "How long until the charges are ready?" Hyern asked over the radio. 8 minutes, Duyun replied. "You need to leave now," she said. "Krathos reinforcements are flooding that section. We cannot leave until the charges are armed." Du said. "Someone has to stay and make sure they detonate in sequence." Junho stumbled, his wounded shoulder finally giving out. He fell to one knee, blood seeping through his armor. MJI caught him. "Get him out of here," Dunn ordered. "Not without you," Junho said through gritted teeth. Down smiled. It was sad and proud at the same time. "Someone has to finish the mission, brother. Today that is me." "No," Hana said. "No, there has to be another way." "There is not," Dunn said gently. "You know that the sound of Cathos warriors was getting louder. They were coming from every direction. Hundreds of them." "Get her out," Dunn told me. MJI grabbed Hana's arm. Junho was being helped by 2 other soldiers. They were moving toward the exit. Hana fought against Mi's grip, screaming, but the human was too strong. The last thing Hana saw was Down standing alone in the chamber, checking his rifle and preparing to face an army. He looked calm. He looked ready. "Tell them Du Yaun and LT Unk and GT Voice came over the radio as they ran, tell Earth that Velis Prime stands, mission accomplished. They made it to the transport ship with seconds to spare. Hannah could see Cathos warriors flooding into the docking area behind them. The pilot launched immediately, pulling away from the bioship at maximum speed, detonation in 10 seconds. Someone said. Hannah watched through the view screen, tears streaming down her face. She thought of Down standing alone in that chamber. She thought of his wife and daughters back on Earth who would never see him again. She thought of how he had chosen to be there, chosen to sacrifice himself for people he barely knew. The bioship exploded. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. The massive structure tore itself apart from the inside, sending debris and bodies into space. The secondary explosions followed, destroying the smaller ships nearby. The sky above Velis Prime lit up like a second sun. In the transport, no one spoke. Junho was crying. Mi had her head bowed. Even the pilot, a hard woman who had seen countless battles, had tears on her face. They had won. The Krathos bioship was destroyed. The swarm's reinforcements were gone. Velis Prime would survive, but the cost was a good man who would never go home, a father who would never see his children grow up, a warrior who chose to stand alone so others could live. Hannah understood something in that moment. Humans were not fearless. They felt fear, just like everyone else. But they did what needed to be done anyway. That was what made them extraordinary, not their strength or their weapons or their tactics, their choice, always their choice to stand and fight, even when standing meant dying. Down had made that choice, and because of him, millions would live to see another day. 3 weeks had passed since the bioship fell from the sky. The Cathos swarm, leaderless and broken, scattered across the system. Small groups still attacked occasionally, but they were disorganized and easily driven off. Velis Prime was no longer dying. It was healing. Hannah stood in the memorial garden that the Velsians had built in the center of the city. 347 markers stood in neat rows, each one bearing the name of a human soldier who had died defending a world that was not their own. She spent hours here every day, reading the names, trying to memorize each one. You come here a lot, a voice said behind her. She turned to see MJI, now promoted to lieutenant. After the battle, the sergeant had a new scar across her cheek, but she carried herself with the same quiet confidence. As always, I need to remember them, Hannah said softly. I need to make sure their names are never forgotten. They would appreciate that. MJI walked up beside her. But they would not want you to spend your whole life mourning. They died so you could live, so live well. That is the best way to honor them. They stood together in silence for a moment. Then MJI pointed to the largest memorial, a statue that stood at the garden center. It showed a human soldier in full armor, rifle raised, standing over fallen Krathos. The face was down, an LT Unk and GT, carved in perfect detail by Velsian artists who had studied every photograph they could find. His family will see this someday, MJI said, when the war is truly over and civilians can travel safely. They will know how brave he was, how much he meant to us all. Does it get easier? Hannah asked. Losing people you care about? No, MJI said honestly. It never gets easier. You just learn to carry the weight, and you make sure their sacrifice meant something. At the Government Center, Commander Seo was meeting with representatives from the Galactic Council, the same council that had abandoned Prime when the Krathos attacked. Now they wanted to talk about diplomatic relations and mutual defense agreements. Hana watched the meeting through a video feed. Siak sat across from 3 council members, his expression carved from stone. Earth's intervention was most unexpected. One of the council members said carefully, "We would like to discuss incorporating human forces into the Council Defense Network." Where was the Council Defense Network 3 months ago? Siak asked coldly. Where were you when the Velzians begged for help, when they sent out distress calls that you all ignored? No, the council members shifted uncomfortably. The situation was deemed not strategically viable. You mean they were not worth saving? Siak said. Because they had no resources. You wanted because they were weak and could not fight back. That is not. We have the transmission logs, Seo interrupted. We have every ignored distress call, every request for aid that you denied. Earth does not forget, and we do not forgive nations that abandon the helpless. He stood up, signaling the meeting was over. Earth will establish a permanent alliance with Velis Prime. We will help them rebuild. We will train their defense forces. We will stand with them. That is what allies do. Perhaps the council should learn the meaning of that word. The council members left, their expressions a mixture of anger and shame. Hana felt a fierce pride watching. So defend her people. The humans had not come for glory or profit. They had come because it was right, and they were not letting anyone forget that. In the following days, the work of rebuilding continued. Human engineers worked alongside Velizian scientists, combining their different approaches to create something better than either could alone. Risian medical knowledge helped human doctors treat injuries faster. Human construction techniques taught how to build structures that could withstand attacks. Tamman published his research paper titled On the Paradox of Humanity. It became one of the most read documents in the galaxy. In it he described humans as a species capable of terrible violence but who chose compassion, warriors who fought not for conquest but for protection, predators who used their strength to defend prey. The paper concluded with a warning to the galaxy. We feared humans for their capacity for violence, but we should have recognized that same capacity is what makes them the greatest protectors the galaxy has ever known. They do not fight because they love war. They fight because they love peace and will destroy anything that threatens it. Corporal Jiho, who had been teaching children self-defense, had become something of a local hero. Children followed him everywhere, and he patiently answered their endless questions about Earth. Is it true you have animals called dogs? A small girl asked. Yes, Jiho said, smiling. I have one back home. Her name is Bammy. She is probably driving my mother crazy right now. Are dogs dangerous? Some can be, Jiho admitted, but mostly they are friends. Humans have lived with dogs for thousands of years. We protect each other like you protect us. Another child asked. Jiho knelt down to their level. Exactly like that. That is what humans do best. We make friends and we keep them safe. Junho had recovered from his wounds, though his shoulder would never be quite the same. He was preparing to return to Earth with the other soldiers. Their mission was complete, but saying goodbye was harder than anyone expected. You could stay, Hana suggested when she found him packing his gear. We need teachers, people who understand how to defend against species like the Kathos. Junho smiled but shook his head. I have a mother back on Earth, a sister. They need me too, but we will be back once Earth makes friends. We do not abandon them. Promise, promise. The day the human ships prepared to leave, the entire Velizian population came out to say goodbye. Thousands of people lined the streets holding signs and gifts, crying and cheering at the same time. Zara, whose face still bore scars from the acid burns, walked among them. Velrizian mother approached her and pressed something into her hand. It was a small carved stone, smooth and warm. This is a memory stone, the mother explained. In our culture we carry them to remember people we love. Please take it, remember us. Zara looked at the stone, then at the mother, then at all the faces around her. We could never forget you. You are part of us now. At the spaceport, Commander Sok gave a final speech to the assembled crowd. Hana had worked with her brother to translate it into perfect Velian, and she stood beside so as he spoke. We came here as strangers, Siak said. We leave as family. Your children are our children. Your future is our future. Earth stands with Velis Prime today and always. If you call, we will come. That is our promise. The crowd erupted in cheers. Hana felt tears running down her face, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of gratitude and hope. I found Hana before boarding. You are coming to Earth someday, right? For the memorial ceremony. I would not miss it. Hana said, I need to tell Dion and LT, Unk and GT's family what he meant to us, what he did for us. They will like you. Me said his wife is strong like you. His daughters ask about him every day. It will hurt them to know he is gone, but they will be proud. They hugged, and Hana was surprised by how natural it felt. Weeks ago she had been terrified of these giant warriors from a death world. Now she could not imagine life without them. The human ships lifted off one by one, their engines roaring as they climbed toward the stars. Hana watched until they were just points of light in the sky. Beside her, Tamon put his hand on her shoulder. They really came, he said quietly. When everyone else abandoned us, they came. They did more than that, Hana replied. They showed us what it means to be strong. Not just physical strength, but strength of character, strength of will, the strength to stand up when it would be easier to walk away. In the months that followed, Velis Prime changed. The Velians remained peaceful scholars and artists, but they learned to defend themselves. They studied human tactics, human technology, human philosophy. They built defenses not to attack others, but to ensure no one could ever threaten them again. And when other worlds sent distress calls, when other species found themselves facing extinction, Prime answered. They could not send warriors like the humans did, but they sent medical supplies, engineers, scientists. They sent hope. The alliance between Earth and Velis Prime became the foundation of something larger. Other species, inspired by what they saw, joined. Not a council of politicians making strategic calculations, but a genuine alliance of peoples who believed in protecting each other. The galaxy had thought humans were too dangerous to be part of civilized space. The galaxy had been right about the danger, but they had been wrong about everything else. Humans were dangerous the way fire was dangerous in the wrong hands. It Destroyed, but in the right hands it gave warmth, light, and life. Years later, when Hana finally traveled to Earth for the memorial ceremony, she stood before Diane and LT Unk and GT's widow and daughters. She told them stories about how brave he had been, how he had stood alone so others could live, how his sacrifice had saved millions. The widow, a woman named Yunyo, took Hana's hands and hers. Thank you for remembering him. Thank you for making sure his death meant something. He changed everything, Hana said through tears, not just for Velis Prime, for the whole galaxy. He showed us what it means to be a hero. Down in LT Unk and GT's daughters, now teenagers, showed Hana their father's medals and commendations. They spoke about following in his footsteps, joining the Defense Force, protecting others just like he did. Looking at them, Hana saw the future galaxy where species stood together, where the strong protected the weak, not out of obligation but out of love, where humanity's greatest gift was not their weapons or their strength but their choice to care about strangers. The Krathos had thought no help would arrive when they attacked Velis Prime. They had been wrong. Earth's warriors had fallen from the skies, and the galaxy would never be the same again.